So, as the title suggests, this is the second interview that Detective Maira Tagler did with Stephan Sterns. I think most of us can agree that Detective Tagler and also Detective Kevin O'Malley, is it, were definitely standout detectives in this case. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them on the stand because I think they're going to just nail his ass to the wall on the stand as well. I think they're going to find it quite easy to field any questions thrown at them by the defence. We've seen how defence teams can be quite vicious with law enforcement, but I get the impression that these two would probably be really good witnesses for the state. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them on the stand. So this interview is the second one, which was done at she will say the time in a minute, but it was after Jenn's interview in the very, very early hours of the morning of the 28th. So at the time that this interview was being done, Chris Stearns had only just left Northport and was on his way to Kissimmee to join the pair of them in the hotel. So the interview we listened to yesterday was the 7 p.m. one on the 27th, after which they contacted Chris and basically asked him to come to Kissimmee. And then there was the interview with Jenn just before this one. So just giving you a bit of context as in where we're at with the timeline. So on that note, let's just jump in.
Central Florida, I'm sure you're aware.
Case number 24-11313. Today's date is February 28th, 2024. The time is 00:16 hours. Speaking with Stephan again.
That sigh just before she says the time and date tells you so much, doesn't it? These detectives worked their asses off on this case. And Jenn and Stephan made it no easier for them whatsoever. So she's well and truly entitled to that sigh. God knows how many hours she had put in on that day. We know that she was interviewing Stephan at like 7:19 p.m. or something, but obviously her day didn't just start then. So yeah, I do have sympathy for her, and I totally get where that sigh comes from.
Okay. So, as you guys know, they have a phone, right? Mm-hmm. They've been going through the phone, and they noticed that there was like a lot of messages between you and
Mm-hmm.
can you explain to me what your relationship is between you and
Yeah, stepfather of sorts, I guess. She thought of me as a dad, thinks of me as a dad.
Okay, first of all, I get angry every time he describes himself as a stepfather, but he's such a dumbass. What he did there is up there with Don Wells, when in one of his interviews he referred to Summer in the past tense, and then he stopped and corrected himself, and then he said, I have to make sure that I refer to her in the present tense, and I'm paraphrasing, I haven't watched this interview in ages, but he's like, I have to make sure I refer to her in the present tense, because otherwise people get all upset by that or jump on that or blah, blah, blah. Stearns has basically gone, she thought of me as a father, and then stopped and then rephrased it and said thinks of me as a father. How obvious can you be? And that is such an intentional catch. He screwed up, he knew he screwed up, instead of just trying to brush over it and pretend that it didn't happen, he corrects himself. Sure, Deb, your son has a genius IQ.
Mostly things like, when are you going to call us? When are you going to come up here and visit? Hey, poopy head, get online. Things like that.
Okay.
Is anyone else really triggered by Maddie supposedly calling him poopy head? Or is it just me? I really don't cope with hearing it every time. It does something to me. But don't you just love these okays from Maira Tagler? We know what she's thinking here. Most of the time, these okays are usually either keep talking because so far I don't believe you, or okay, that's a load of BS. I can't say that this early on in the video because otherwise it will probably be demonetised. But you know what I'm saying.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Your phone. I told you that I was gonna hold on to it, and that we would like to download your phone, right?
Okay.
Is this something that I have your consent to do, or do I need to get a search warrant for your phone?
It should be fine.
You're okay with us going through your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have the PIN to your phone?
42586.
Him and Jen truly are out of the same mould, aren't they? They're both so narcissistic that their codes for their phones is their birthdays. Now, for those of you who are Australian, does anyone else find it grossly offensive that his birthday is on Anzac Day? So for non-Australians, Anzac Day is, I guess it's a bit like your Memorial Day. We have a public holiday for Anzac Day. It doesn't always fall on Anzac Day, but there's always services on Anzac Day where all our past soldiers, there's parades and they march in the parades, they wear all their medals. It was originally to memorialise soldiers who died at Gallipoli in World War One, but it's basically encompasses all servicemen, basically. So, you know, for Australians, it's a meaningful day. So I hate the fact that this guy's birthday is on Anzac Day.
Four two five eight six. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then, okay, so when you guys FaceTime, what do you guys talk about?
It's usually with her mom right there too. We're just chatting.
Okay.
That right there is a major red flag to me. She's asking him about FaceTiming, and the first thing he has to say is it's usually with her mum right there. He's trying to say it's all perfectly inane, there's nothing untoward that occurs, which to me says that, and I don't want to say it on this video, but it says to me that there were probably times when they were face chatting and he was getting her to perform for him. I don't know how else to word it, but that would also explain how he managed to go for those long periods of time when he was at his parents' place. course, it's something that is untraceable, so it would be something that would be impossible to prove, because the only person that could actually confirm that would be Maddie. But definitely for him to jump in straight away and say it's usually with her mother there implies that it should have been with her mother there because there was inappropriate stuff going on. He also says, we're just chatting. Well, okay, now I would presume that if you were FaceTiming someone, that you would be just chatting. So the fact that he has to point that out, again, makes me think that there was more to it than just chatting. It just breaks my heart to think what this poor girl must have gone through. Because from the wording here, I think there was so much more going on with these FaceTimes.
I noticed that at some of the times that you guys are FaceTiming, it's like really late. Is it normal for her to be in bed late?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, her bedtime's usually around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I talk to them both before bedtime when I'm not here.
Okay.
10:30 is supposed to be her bedtime, but she gets to push it sometimes.
Okay.
But mom's always present.
When you
Again, he has to push this whole thing of mum is always present. Why do you need to make that reassurance that there's nothing untoward going on? You know, oh, we're being supervised. It's not just me and her, but her mum's always present. And I find it disturbing. I know that we've heard from Deb that there are FaceTime chats between him and Jenn, so I believe that. But I still find it disturbing that there's late night ones that she's talking about, and for those late night ones, he once again has to emphasise that Jenn is present during those late night chats. I mean, it would be easy enough to turn around and say, well, no, how could they possibly FaceTime each other and him have Maddie doing inappropriate stuff with Jenn in the house? But hello, you know, he had 1,700 images and videos on his phone. He's up for 60 charges relating to what he did to Maddie. A lot of those images are in Maddie's fake bedroom. So, given that apparently Jenn didn't notice it happening under her own nose when he was actually there at the house, then why would it be any different on FaceTime? I mean, we know that either Jenn was oblivious to it, Jenn turned a blind eye, or Jenn allowed it and pretended to turn a blind eye, was fully aware of everything that was going on. So just the way he is talking about these face chats, the FaceTiming her, it worries me. It's a huge red flag to me just because he does have to over-explain repeatedly that Jenn was there and that they were just chatting.
you guys are FaceTiming. Okay.
Sometimes we're using her mom's phone to FaceTime with her. Sometimes FaceTiming them both together on one of the phones.
Okay. And then you said that yesterday you accidentally factory reset your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what time that was?
No, it was sometime in the morning. I had been pushing off doing an update for a while.
Was that before or after you went to the smoke shop?
Before? I'm not sure. I'm not a morning person.
God, it ticks me off every time he goes, I'm not sure, I'm not a morning person. But you know what she's done there, which is quite quite clever and quite subtle. So his story is that he dropped Maddie off and he went to the vape store and it wasn't open. He hung around there for a while and then he drove home. And then he went back out to the vape store later. Now, he's talking about resetting his phone. And she's basically said, was that before or after you went to the vape store? Now, of course, logically, it would have to be in between going to the vape store the 2 times, because the first time he wouldn't have had his phone with him. But the thing is, none of the surveillance shows him going anywhere near the vape store the first time round that he claims to have done so. So she's basically got him to admit here that yes, he only went to the vape store 1 time. And that was in the afternoon after he had reset his phone. The I'm not a morning person thing doesn't fly because he reset his phone at 12 o'clock, like in the middle of the day. So, and he would know what time because him and Jen were both at the apartment together, and that's the only time that him and Jen were at the apartment together. So it shouldn't be too hard to figure out.
It's a newer phone. I was doing this update. It had some sort of weird option at the bottom that said something about reinstall everything, and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing.
Okay, can you
It was
explain
right
to
there
me,
with me.
where were you? Like, were you in your settings?
I was following whatever the links were for the OS update.
Where I don't have an Android, so I don't know where you...
I'm not super tech savvy.
Is it like
I'm
a
so sorry.
text? Was it...
It was a push notification that came in at the top that I had just been ignoring
Oh,
for
like
a long
up here.
time. Yeah.
One of the things that Detective Tagler does really, really well is that she pretends that she doesn't understand. And especially with his phone. Once again, she's pulled out the I don't have an Android, so you're going to have to explain it to me in minute detail. In other words, I want to catch you out on your lie here because clearly you knew what you were doing. You can't accidentally factory reset a phone. So I want to hear you try and explain it away.
Okay.
And then it was it's a boneheaded maneuver.
Okay, and then where did it direct you to?
I don't know. It took me to a page with all the stuff in the system, and I clicked something. I wasn't paying attention.
Do you remember what it said? Like, what kind of update was it?
It was like a big OS update, and it had all these options, and it was like reinstall something with all the apps and stuff. Reinstall everything, the apps and stuff. I don't know exactly what I said. I pushed it, and it started doing the update, and then it turned into some sort of reset or something. I'm not sure how I did that.
Okay.
I'm not buying your soggy bread. I have to say, she's really good the way she just sits back, lets him get himself all tangled up with this complete utter BS, and just throws in her here and there. And he's such a dumbass that he doesn't even realise the strategy that she's using.
I was half asleep, and
Honestly, if you wanted to make a drinking game from these interviews with Jen and Stephan, I was half asleep would definitely have to be added to the list.
And then when you came back to get your key fob, what did you do when you got here?
ran inside, got the key fob, ran back out again.
Okay, where did you park?
Right up here, I think.
Okay. How long would you say you were inside your apartment for?
Literally long enough to run in, grab the fob, and come back out. So.
Okay, and then what did you do?
At the most.
What did you do when you came back up?
got back in the car and went back on the morning mission.
What did you do when you got back to the car? I do wonder if this was when he pushed the seat back, like inclined it so that Maddie was laying further back. Maybe he didn't even go into the townhouse. I don't know. I wonder what footage they have from this period of time. But then, for him to say that he went back on the morning mission, oh my gosh. I mean, that is so not the language that you would expect to hear from someone who was supposed to be dropping a child off at school. You would expect the answer to be, well, hop back in the car and took Maddie to school. Not the morning mission. What exactly was your morning mission, Stephan? I think we know what the morning mission was. But saying it that way just makes him sound guilty as hell. It's just really not natural language for what he was doing.
Okay. The camera has you in the complex for 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem about right?
Yeah, coming into the complex, driving around, parking, getting the fob, coming back out. Sounds about right.
Okay.
I guess it is a fairly large complex, so maybe 12 minutes is about right. I mean, obviously their surveillance is right, but it just bugs me not knowing what he was doing when he went back to the apartment complex at that time.
Okay. And then you leave. What time would you say you dropped her off at the school? Or not at the school, but in the area?
My estimate was sometime between 8:20 and 8:40.
Okay, the camera has you leaving the complex at 8:31.
8:31? Okay, so it must have been closer to 8:40 then.
This guy's clearly not a mathematician, is he? From what we know, it's, about a 15-minute drive from the townhouse to the school. So, no, it wouldn't have taken you 9 minutes, Stephan. It would have been closer to 10 to 9 by your calculations.
Okay, and then after you dropped her off, did you go directly to the smoke shop?
I did. I went directly to the smoke shop. Waited. It was supposed to be open, but it wasn't. I waited a little while to see if they were just being slow about turning on the open sign. They weren't, so I went home at that point.
How long do you think you waited?
5-10 minutes maybe.
Okay, so if you drop her off at like 8:40, how far is the smoke shop from there to where you dropped her off?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many minutes. How far?
No, of course you're not sure how many minutes, because you didn't go to the smoke shop that morning. And of course you didn't drop Maddie off. So, according to the surveillance, after returning to the townhouse, that's when he went out, like, around SeaWorld area and all that, before he then, at, I think it was about 9:20, drove into that parking garage and moved Maddie into the boot of his car. There's no records of him having gone to the smoke shop that first time round that he claims that he did. Basically, he's using that to try and explain away a gap in time. They know that, obviously. We know they've already got surveillance, so they know that he didn't go there at that time. Thankfully, the guy is too much of a dumbass to realise that when they ask you these questions, they already know the answers.
Did you go anywhere else after the smoke shop?
Sorry. I don't know. I don't think I went anywhere specific. I was just driving probably in the direction of home. But I don't remember stopping anywhere specifically.
And you were there for 5 to 10 minutes?
roundabout, I think.
Okay, so like let's say you drop her off at 8:40. We don't see her car coming back south until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing between 8:40 and 10 o'clock?
Oh, sprung. I love, she's just carefully lined it all up, and then bam, got you. Guess what? You lied, and we know you lied.
Cruising around a little bit.
Okay, but I asked you earlier, you know, like what you were doing, and you said you were there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you came back home.
Yeah, well, I went to the smoke shop, like I said. But I may have been meandering around the area.
Honestly, it seems pretty clear that this guy has never had someone question his lies. Because he's just, you can tell he's panicking. She's basically nailed him completely. And he doesn't know where to go with it. So he's like, well, I went to the vape shop and I may have been meandering around the area. May have been as in, let me think, I need to come up with a good story here. And don't forget also, there was a big long pause before he said that. He is on the back foot and he's struggling to figure out how to get out of this hole that he's dug himself into.
But I made my way home.
Okay, but I'm asking you earlier, right? And even like the first time we talked to you, you're not telling us that you're like, you know, just cruising the area, like you're coming home. So I need to be able to explain to my supervisors why there's such a time gap.
I think what makes this interview so brilliant is that she does come across as this detective with this sweet voice. She's quite level the way she speaks. She doesn't raise her voice at all. And she lulls him into this false sense of security. And now she's showing what she's really like. And for him to have a female nailing his ass to the wall would have just really taken him back. Especially because when you look at the relationship with his parents, his mother ate up everything he said. She never ever questioned any of his lies. So this is probably the first time in his life where a female has actually questioned his lies and done it so very efficiently.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It was just a normal day. I didn't have anything important to do. The smoke shop was supposed to open soon, so I made my way over there. Wasn't any particular rush, though.
You can hear the tone in his voice starting to change. And he says, I don't know what to say. Now, at this point, he's not angry with her, but you can hear there's definitely a bit of tension there. She's got him in a position that he's never had to deal with before. She's confronting him over his lies. And the thing is, if you look on this map here, you can see the two pins. On the far left is Maddie's school. It's a smaller salmon-y coloured pin. But you can see over there, off to the left, Hunters Creek Middle School. The pin on the right-hand side, the big one, that's where the smoke shop is. It's so close to the school. So basically, had he ever gone directly from the school to the smoke shop, he would know that it was really close, and he would know that it probably only takes 5 minutes at the most. I don't know what the traffic would be like. They know how close it is to the school. Because remember, Jen gave them the address. She told them the name of the smoke shop. Probably that by that stage they'd already been there looking for surveillance. So they've so totally got him nailed here. And he's getting in a flap because he probably realises now that they're not buying his story.
Okay, but can you help me explain to them, because I don't know the explanation or the answer to this question, okay? So can you help me explain to them why there's such a delay in the time?
No, can't explain it. I wasn't going anywhere in particular. I wasn't doing anything in particular. I was just making my way to the smoke shop. Waited for them to open. They did not open. And then I left.
Where did you go from there?
From the smoke shop, I went home.
I love that even though she is starting to come at him, she's also putting it back on her bosses to make it sound like she's still the nice cop. Well, I have to explain this to my bosses. I'm coming at you not because I'm not trusting you, but because my bosses need to know these answers. It's a classic strategy for basically trying to keep him on side. But you can hear that he is starting to lose his shiz. He is losing his patience because he's used to being able to gaslight people. He's used to being able to tell his lies and have them believed. And she's not playing his game.
Okay, the smoke shop is like 10 minutes from here, right?
15, 20-ish, something like that.
Earlier you told us it was 10 minutes.
Time is not a strong suit of mine. I'm guesstimating here. I'm doing
I
the best
understand, but I
can.
have to be able to explain.
Time is not a strong suit of mine. She has lost her patience with him, and she's signalling to him, you need to pull your thumb out and you need to start telling the truth right now because I don't buy any of this bullcrap that you're giving me right now. She just suddenly snaps it so quickly. That's going to put him on the back foot straight away. I find it really masterful, the way she has lulled him in like this. And now she's like showing him, because I think he thinks that he can still gaslight her. And she's like, okay, well, no more Mr. Nice Guy because it's not going to work. And you think you can take advantage of me. You think you can gaslight me. You think you can basically talk around me. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to show you my true colours. I'm not buying your BS.
You know, where you were for an hour and 20 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And right now, I can't explain that.
Okay. Smoke shop was supposed to open close to 10. I waited. They did not open. And I came home.
Okay.
What time specifically are they supposed to open?
10 o'clock is when it's supposed to open.
So why'd you go at 8:40?
Like I said, I didn't go exactly at 8:40. I went to the smoke shop after I dropped her off.
But even if it was 9 o'clock, that still would have been an hour before they're supposed to open. So why would you think it would be open?
I didn't think it would be open. I was hoping I would get there early enough and wait for it to open.
You can hear him starting to get really pissed with these detectives. He doesn't like that they are questioning him. And instead of just being honest, he's reached a point where, because he's angry, he can't even make up a new part of his story. He's going to stick with this story of, I went to the vape store and I waited a while to see if it would open and then I came home. He's already forgotten the bit about that he may have driven around a bit. He's totally discarded that because he's got so, I think he's starting to panic because he knows that they don't believe him. So he's already forgotten the bit that he said about, I may have driven around a bit. And I think you can hear him unravelling, basically.
So you would have waited an hour for it to be open?
I did not wait an hour. I got there maybe 20 minutes before it opened, 15 minutes before it opened, and just sat and waited.
But then you're seen coming at 10 a.m. when it's supposed to open, already coming down.
leaving because it was supposed to open at 10 a.m. I waited a few minutes after 10. They were not opening, and that's when I left.
You did not wait a few minutes after 10.
What do you mean?
At 10 a.m., you were seen coming down southbound on Jongyang Parkway at the intersection of Jongyang Parkway.
At 10 a.m., I was still in front of that shop waiting to see if they were going to turn on the open sign.
We've got you on camera at this exact time. We are basically telling you right now that we know you are lying. And you need to actually turn around and tell us the truth. No, you're lying to me. I mean, that's basically what he is saying here. He's getting really angry with them for not believing his BS. And instead of going, oh, well, maybe I got my times wrong, after saying that he is time blind and that he's not good with times, now he is going to fight them over him sitting outside the smoke shop. He's got his knickers in a knot, basically.
Okay, but if you dropped off at 8:40 and you said you only waited for a couple minutes at the smoke shop, why would you still be there at 10?
I waited to see if it would open, and they did not open.
I have so much respect for these detectives. If I was doing their job and I heard him using that insolent tone, basically coming back at them when they've essentially made it really, really clear that they know he's lying, I would have lost my shiz completely with him at this point in time. He is basically, instead of trying to change his lies up this time, for some reason he has now, and I think, like I said, it's because he's gone into freeze mode. His brain has frozen and he can't come up with extra excuses. So instead, he's becoming angry with the detectives, and he's just going to push the one part of the narrative that he's stuck on, because he just cannot think of any more excuses. Because basically, the stress of the situation has turned his brain off. Not that it takes much to turn his brain off anyway, and it wasn't overly functional, but you know what I mean.
We got that part, but you said you were there for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you were there after a couple minutes after 10. So that's...
It doesn't make sense.
Make sense.
I apologize for that. I'm trying to help you out the best that I can, but
Good one, Stephan. Just try gaslighting the detectives, because that'll work. I'm trying to help you out the best that I can. It's probably something that he's used in the past. I'd imagine, based on the phone calls, that there's been times when Chris has actually called him out on his BS, and maybe this is one of his strategies. But it is definitely his attempt at telling the detectives that they're morons. Yeah, that's going to get you a really long way.
Right, so like, if you drop her off around 8:40, let's say, give or take 10 minutes, you make it to the shop around 9, the smoke shop, and you sit there and wait for a couple minutes for it to open. You said you waited for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense that you're still there at 10 o'clock?
I was there at 10 o'clock.
Okay, so what did you do before that?
I dropped her off, and I made my way over. Not a direct route.
He is determined to stick to the story, even if it means making up more BS around the story. He seems to have forgotten here that he's basically already told them that he went directly to the vape store after dropping Maddie off. And now he's taking a scenic route to get to the vape store.
But I made my way over there.
Did you stop anywhere on your way to the smoke shop?
I don't think so.
He was essentially asking them a question there when he said, I don't think so. He raised his voice towards the end of it, I don't think so. Meaning, he wants to know what they know. Because he made one stop that morning. And he's probably quite concerned that they might know about that one stop that he made. Because that one stop was him pulling into the parking garage and moving Maddie from the passenger seat into the trunk of his car. So he's probably utterly crapping his pants right now.
Do you have problems with your memory that you can't recall what you did?
Yes, I'm extremely ADHD. I'm sorry. So just details start to get fuzzy after a while. Even the times I'm giving you are my best guesstimates here.
I truly hate this guy. She came at him then, and rightly so. Do you have problems with your memory that you can't remember what you did? And that was a fair call, and she knows the answer to that. Basically, that's her saying, you're lying to us, stop bullshitting and give us the truth. And either he doesn't read the cues, or he chooses to ignore the cues and claims, oh, well, I've got ADHD, so I tend to forget things easily. Well, I'm sorry. That's not how that works. You don't forget blocks of time. And especially if you are driving around. Because you have multiple sensory cues going on there. You have tactile cues. You're holding the steering wheel, maybe changing gears. You have visual cues. You have audio cues or audible cues. You have all these cues going on while you are driving around doing these things. So you are going to know precisely where you've been. Because having ADHD means that you are actually more in tune with everything else around you. You are going to take in so much more of what's going on around you while you are driving. So to claim that he can't remember is just BS. I probably 3 months ago drove down to Melbourne to visit my niece. I could tell you every stop along the way. I could describe her street. I could describe the units in the little village where she lives quite easily. Because of my ADHD, I notice everything. So this excuse of his, of having a poor memory and he can't remember where he drove because of his ADHD, is complete and utter BS. Even down to the point where he claims he doesn't know the area, but of course he does. Because he's been to that vape store. He claims that's the only vape store he goes to. He claims that he goes to all the card stores around the area. If you wanted to know what route I took to my last 3 physio appointments, and I would say, yep, I took a different route each time. Because the last time I finally drove myself, The 2 times before that, my sister drove me, and she happened to take 2 different routes to get there on the separate days. I could describe the route to you precisely. And that's going back, 6 weeks? 2-week increments. This guy is full of BS.
I didn't have my phone with me at the time, so I wasn't aware of exactly what time.
There's no
everything
time
was-
on your
was
car?
transpiring. There probably is, but it's not my car. It's my parents' car.
Another super lame-o excuse. Because, and I'm speaking from experience, I've driven a lot of different cars. So many that I wouldn't be able to give you a count. And the thing is, when you sit in the driver's seat, you position the seat, you position the mirrors, and you familiarise yourself with the inside of the car before you start driving. So I'm pretty certain that being a somewhat expensive, fancy car, that the clock would have been in the car, and had he been looking for it, he would have seen it. If he, as he claims, is ADHD, then he sure as hell would have seen the clock. I personally don't believe that he is ADHD. That's just my opinion. There is nothing about him that screams ADHD to me. But I could be wrong. All I see is a narcissistic sociopath, basically.
How certain are you that you were outside of the smoke shop at 10 a.m.?
90% sure.
What makes you think that you were there at 10?
I saw lights on inside the place. It looked like they were coming to life in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like they were about to open.
Mm-hmm.
And I was waiting to see if they were going to turn on the open
Do you
sign.
remember if there was anybody inside?
I couldn't see inside from the outside.
They have totally got him backed into a corner there, and his lies are just getting worse and worse. First of all, he is there claiming that he was definitely there at 10, but then they ask him about time and everything, and, well, he doesn't really know the time because he didn't have his phone with him, and it's not his car, so he couldn't actually... He doesn't know if there was clock in the car, so, he's not entirely certain, but he's 90% sure that he was there around 10. And they're like, well, how do you know? Because he's basically established the fact that he's got no idea of time. And he talks about lights being on, and it looked like they were coming to life in there. Now, if I was parked outside a store and I was saying it looked like they were coming to life in there, you would expect that what I am referring to is that there were people inside doing things in the store. And he even said I was waiting for them to put the open sign out, which sounds like he is referring to there being people in the store doing things. But then when they ask him if he saw people in there and what they looked like, he's like, I didn't see anyone. I couldn't see into the store. Well, you've just said it looked like they were coming to life in there. How can you know that if you can't see into the store? Now, I'm not sure if this was Detective Acosta who was with her, but note how they're now both firing at him. Before, the other detective was just sitting back and letting Detective Tagler take the lead. And now that Stephan is just starting to arc up a bit, they're putting the pressure on together. And they just have this rhythm going between them, don't they? I just think they're doing a really... I would have lost my shiz with him completely, but I love that they've got this rhythm going, and they are just putting him further and further into that corner. Or he's really putting himself there, but you know what I mean.
But after I came home and then went back to the smoke shop again later, when they definitely were open, I stopped in and got my vape juice finally. I don't remember the name of the guy working there, but he was like a skinny guy, short, skinny guy.
Okay, well, we know that he's actually telling the truth that time round, and you can hear that there's none of that panic in his voice. There's none of that confused narrative that we've had elsewhere. He's just straight out telling it how it is. So these detectives would have been able to tell quite easily the difference between his lies and his truths.
When you came back for the fob, did she go inside with you?
No, she was in the car still. She was asleep.
Where in the car?
Passenger side.
The front seat.
Correct.
Okay. Did she at any point go in the back of the vehicle, like in the back seat?
No.
So she was in the front the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Awake or asleep?
She was asleep.
Okay.
She was conked out. We had gotten up.
How was she positioned in the front seat?
Leaned back in the seat, just kind of conked out, napping.
Where was her head in relation to the seat?
Against the seat, I think. Against it. Just.
Was the seat leaning back, or
The seat was leaning back. Yeah, she had leaned the seat back so that she could recline and.
Okay.
Notice how suddenly he is very clear on specifics. He knows what position she was in. He knows that she reclined the seat back, which says to me that maybe when he first stopped at the dumpster, after he first put her in the car, he inclined the seat, or maybe when he got back. But we don't hear the security guard saying the seat was inclined back. So I'm still wondering if he did actually incline it back when he got back to the townhouse. But he is once again being very specific, which doesn't fall with any of his other BS about not being very observant or not noticing things and all that sort of BS that, my big excuse is that I've got ADHD, so I don't notice anything.
And then I need you to try to, refresh your memory. When you got the flat tire on 192, what could you see around you?
It's 192. It all looks the same. I'm so sorry. I'm drawing a blank as any specific businesses or names.
Nice segue there. So on one hand, she gets him to demonstrate that he actually can remember quite clearly what position Maddie was in the car. And now when she asks him about the flat tyre and wants to know about surroundings, he's drawing a blank. And now we know that he knows full well where he was when he got that flat tyre. But obviously he can't tell detectives that. So now he's trying to make up a place in his head and he's trying to find a visual cue that he can describe, but he hasn't got one because obviously it's fictitious.
Did he pull off to the side of the road, to a business?
I pulled off into a side plaza, like one of those little strips along the side. Dug around for my spare and my jack. Thankfully, we had both.
So I think up until the point when the detective asked him that question, that he was actually going to go with essentially it being somewhere on the side of the highway, because he talks about it all looking the same. But because the detective asked him specifically about businesses, he decided that was actually a good way to go. So now he's like, we're talking about what do you call them, a plaza, a small strip plaza on the side of the road, which, come on, you would know what stores were there, you would know what it looked like, but no, he apparently, we're about to get to that, has no idea of any of that. But having jumped on the suggestion by the detective, at this point in time, he thinks he's on a winner. I also wonder if maybe he is counting on, or maybe he thinks that they might have that footage of him pulling into the parking garage when he moved Maddie out of the passenger seat, and maybe he's trying to merge that in with the flat tire story, forgetting that time-wise it's not going to match. Maybe he's probably thinking, well, if they've got images, I better say that it was a plaza or something, and they, if they ask me about that, I can say that's when I changed my tyre. At that point in time, it probably didn't occur to him that the time frame won't match, so that wouldn't work anyway.
Direction were you coming in?
I was going towards John Young.
Okay.
So that direction.
And it was a plaza. You don't remember any businesses that were in the plaza?
I don't. I was focused on the
What
wheel
color
that
is the plaza?
Oh God, I have no idea what color the plaza was. I'm sorry, didn't even register a detail like that.
Okay, remind me again what you were doing on 192?
I was looking around at different game shops. One of my card games just had a release on Friday, Lorcana.
What card are you talking about?
It's like a trading card game, and they had a big release on Friday, so I wanted to go around.
What's the card though?
I'm sorry?
What is the game?
It's called Lorcana.
Lorcana?
Yeah, Lorcana. It's a trading card game made by Disney, kind of like Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering.
Okay, and you stopped at what shop?
I stopped over by Target. I was going to see if they had any. I then went up and was going to go to a place called House Rules Games. That is on 192 and Oak Street. I did not make it to House Rules Games because I got a flat tire before
Okay, which
then.
Target did you go to?
The one down on 192.
192 and what?
Is there more than one down there?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the area.
I love the way that she is just totally nailing his ass right now. She's caught him out in his lies, essentially, because on one hand he's claiming that he doesn't exactly know where it was that he got the flat tyre, but now she's pushed to find out basically, well, what were you doing? What places were you going to? And he starts out, well, I went to this Target, and then I went to this store, which is at this address, and he's like, gives them the address. So logically, that would mean that you got the flat tyre somewhere between those places. So you should be able to identify the exact spot where you got your flat tyre. But of course he can't, because that's not how it happened. But she's not going to let him get away with it. She's basically really pushing him to come up with some answers. And he doesn't know how to deal with this because he's never had someone push him to give answers like this in the past. He's normally gotten away with just producing a lie, and you've seen the way he talks with his parents. He comes up with these really flimsy lies, and Deb just accepts them, and Chris just doesn't say anything.
It's the one down there by the Walmart, I think. I'm not sure what the cross streets are. I'm sorry.
He doesn't realise what she's just done, does he? After him basically going well, I don't really know. I didn't look at where I got the flat tyre. Now she's gone with I don't know the area, so where's this target? And of course, come on, she's a detective. I'm pretty certain she knows the area. And he's able to then give her landmarks. It's the one near here. Well, okay, so why can't you do that with this imaginary plaza where you pulled into? You can't give any landmarks for that? And yet you can give landmarks describing where the target is. I think we can be extremely confident that this interview is definitely going to be played in court, and the jury is just going to eat this up.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could be more help. I'm so sorry.
So now he's apologising. I'm so sorry. I wish I could be more help. I'm so sorry. But he doesn't sound angry here. He actually sounds panicked. Because before you hear him say, I'm so sorry, the second time, you can hear what sounds like panicked breathing. He's suddenly breathing more heavily. She's got him in a corner and he knows it, and he's panicking because he doesn't know how to get himself out of this situation.
And how long were you changing your tire for?
I'm not sure how long it took. I got back here by like 2:35, 2:40, because I was trying to get home to go with her to go pick up from school. And we needed to leave by 2:30. The flat tire made me late for that.
Okay.
Notice the long pauses now after he speaks. They are giving him the opportunity to dig himself a deeper hole. But what we're seeing now, instead of him coming up with these long, elaborate stories, like I said, his brain has gone into freeze mode. So he's only able to come up with brief bits of information. He's struggling because they're not buying his lies, and he's never had to figure out how to reframe lies. He's in a completely foreign situation here, and it's doing his head in completely. And now he's starting to panic.
And there's absolutely nothing that you can remember about the plaza that you got the flat.
No, I don't remember color. I mean, it's all just kind of brownish, I think, along there.
And you said when you got your flat, you were heading towards JYP from 192.
Yes.
Okay, where's your flat tire at?
It's in the trunk.
Okay.
I've got the spare on there right now.
Yeah, I saw the spare.
He's either really dumb or he just can't read people. Because she's circled back to asking him, now that he's been pretty clear about the location of the target and given landmarks with that, and he's been pretty clear with what position Maddie was in the car, she's circled back again to the flat tyre to give him another chance to describe the location where that occurred. And of course, he's got no answer. It all looks the same. Well, a minute ago, it didn't all look the same, did it?
I don't think I have anything else. Your wife has my phone number. If you can remember where you got your flat tire, just have her send me a text message, okay?
Okay. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I know the details are important, and just the way our brains work with ADHD is those things can get fuzzy.
Are you on any medication?
I'm supposed to be. I have not been medicated lately, so
Okay.
I'm not a morning person. I'm very time blind on the best of days and forgetful.
So now, because he realises that he's just not winning here, he's going to pull out all the excuses at once. I'm not a morning person, I'm very time blind, I have ADHD, I'm not on my medications. Anything else you'd like to add in there, Stephan? Now, I noticed that she once again referred to Jenn as his wife. And I'm trying to figure out the strategy here because she knows that they're not married. So, is she trying to get a response out of him for some reason? Or there's got to be a strategy to it. I mean, this is a detective who is so good at what she does that I can't see her accidentally referring to Jenn as his wife or being confused and referring to Jenn as his wife. So there's definitely got to be a strategy here. At the very least, she's expecting him to correct her, but he never does.
So I understand that none of that is helpful in this case.
Okay.
I'm pretty sorry.
I explained to your wife that we're gonna have the apartment secured for the rest of the night. Okay?
Why? So the investigation's not going to happen tonight?
Interesting that he starts with asking why before he says, so the investigation's not going to happen tonight. I wonder what was going through his head at that point in time. If maybe he thought that he was going to sneak back to the townhouse after everyone was gone, or he wanted to get back in for some reason, or what the story was here. It's just a really curious question. I wouldn't be surprised if, we had Jenn saying that she needed to get in to get her meds. I wouldn't be surprised that in his case, he probably was after meds and drugs and stuff. And he may also have been wanting to get in there to reclaim his firearm. Because at this point in time, he would have been feeling pretty insecure. The detectives have basically called him out big time. So I think he's still in slight panic mode. And them telling him you can't go back into the townhouse is just throwing another spanner in the works.
It is. So, I explained to her, me and him have been out all day, right? So we're going to go home, but just because me and him are going home doesn't mean that there isn't other people out here, okay? Mm-hmm. We have another unit out here, which is called Violent Crimes. They're out all night. So they're going to keep looking. We also have some of our detectives that were sent home earlier to get rest because they were going to come and relieve me and him, right? So we're going to take like shifts with the investigation because obviously if we're exhausted, we're of no use, right?
We're all exhausted too.
Right.
My brain is mush.
They're all exhausted too. From doing what? From doing absolutely nothing. They haven't been out to search for Maddie even. The only reason he's exhausted is because he went out in the middle of the night to go back to Maddie. But if you listen to what he's saying, he claims that he's slept all day. So realistically, he shouldn't be all that exhausted. Maybe just exhausted from doing nothing. That's the only kind of exhausted he could possibly claim. Same with Jenn. And it's so rude when you think of the hours that these detectives would be putting in. I mean, you heard with Detective Kevin, him basically saying, I want to go home to my own family. Basically, they were burning the candle at both ends on this case. And Stephan has the hide to claim that he was tired too. Poor little Steffi baby.
Right. And we don't want that to happen with anything that we're doing. So what we're doing is we're taking turns with whatever needs to be done. So we'll brief whoever's coming next and then, hey, this is what we did. This is what needs to be done, okay? The reason we are keeping your house for the night is because your house cannot be completed by one person, right? We don't do that. We have a unit that comes and takes pictures and does whatever they need to do with the house. After a certain time, it's only one person working in that unit. And she can't do it by herself. So people come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. So when the rest of her squad comes in, they're going to come in and, tackle your place as a unit so that they can get it done quicker. Does that make sense? And then I explained to her too, because it was lost in your car, we are going to also tow your car, okay? It's going to go to our sheriff's office, which is at 2500 West Colonial, okay? She said she needed to get her medication. You're not under any medication.
I have medication in the house, though, that I do need to get my blood pressure meds and anxiety meds as well.
Okay.
Touche. She needs to get her meds. You say you're not on any medication, and suddenly he's like, oh crap, and he suddenly needs the stuff that's in the house. But I think definitely what she's trying to establish here with him is that there's going to be people around all night. So yes, we're chucking you out of the townhouse, and don't bother trying to sneak back at any time through the night, because we're working it in shifts. And while we won't be having forensics here in the morning, there's still detectives on the job. So she's making it pretty clear to him that basically there's no way of them getting back in there.
So I'm going to try to figure out where all of this stuff is. Where's your stuff at?
Upstairs in the guest room currently.
In guest room number 4?
Yes. And it's on top of the mini refrigerator.
Is it on, does it have your name on it?
Yes, all of it.
Okay, where does she keep her medicine?
In her zipper case on her nightstand, I believe.
In the downstairs.
Correct.
What zipper?
It's like a little sort of brown zipper case. It's on her nightstand. So right on top of her
Okay, so I can just bring the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any bottles on top of the nightstand around it too, but you might want to grab those. Yeah, just.
Is there anything that you can recall that we haven't asked you? I know we asked you like a whole bunch of questions earlier, and we just asked you like a whole bunch more.
I don't know. My brain is so mush right now. I've barely slept. I haven't eaten in 2 days.
Clearly he doesn't remember telling her in the interview before this that the reason they couldn't get hold of him earlier was because he was asleep. So now he's not just hasn't eaten all day, now he hasn't eaten in 2 days. So he's now just stretching that out a bit, because obviously he's still trying to get some sympathy from her. Because right now he feels that he's failed in his mission to get sympathy, so he needs to step it up. So now he's not slept, even though he's already told her that he was asleep when they tried to contact him. And suddenly, having not eaten all day has gone to he's not eaten in 2 days. And if you think about the timeline, this interview is midnight on the 28th, which means that Maddie hasn't been missing 2 days. He's including that entire time block from Monday morning or Sunday night even. So if everything was normal, what is your reason for not having eaten since the time that you supposedly dropped Maddie off at school? He doesn't realise it, but he's just given another admission there. Because by turning around and claiming that he hasn't eaten for 2 days, he's taking the timeline back to if you go exactly 48 hours, midnight, roughly 48 hours ago, is about an hour after Jenn supposedly sent the pair of them to bed. So he's claiming he hasn't eaten since then. And the inference that he's making here by saying he hasn't eaten in 2 days is that he is so stressed over what's going on with Maddie. Just let that settle into your brain for a moment. If he's so stressed, then he's admitting there that basically everything happened around midnight on that night. Now, obviously, we can't say midnight exactly, but you know what I'm getting at. He's basically backdating the I haven't eaten to basically around the time frame of whatever it was he did to Maddie.
I'm trying to think of questions for you.
What a dumbass. I'm trying to think of questions for you. Now, if you truly believe that Maddie was missing, and if you had no idea why, you had no idea what happened, you would have a million questions for these detectives. But no, he's trying to think of questions. He's got none. That is such a dead giveaway. And the dumbass even has to admit it out loud that he's trying to think of questions. He would have been better off just to keep his mouth shut.
Can I see what shirt you're wearing?
What's that?
Can I see what shirt you're wearing?
Yeah. Just a blue shirt.
Okay.
Remember what shirt you were wearing on Monday morning?
I believe it was this shirt. I'm still wearing the same shirt.
Have you showered since then or anything?
I showered the other night.
He really must think they are so dumb. I mean, they have already signalled to him that they have camera footage of him. Now, we know that he did actually change his shirt on the Monday. And they have camera footage of him in 2 different shirts. You'd think he would be able to figure out that given that they've actually let him know they know that they've got camera footage, that they probably know that he's changed his shirt. But no, he's going to try and claim that he hasn't changed his shirt. It's probably part of his give me sympathy routine. Look at poor me. I haven't even changed my clothes. I haven't had a shower since all this happened. Woe is me, my life is so hard.
No, not since yesterday. Sorry, your hair is even still greasy.
I know you got a cut, right, from...
Yeah, from changing the tire. I haven't...
Do you mind if I see your arms?
Yeah, go for it. I haven't changed the tire.
Do you mind taking your sweater off?
It's cold, but yeah.
Seriously? Do you mind taking your sweater off? Oh, it's cold. But yeah. In other words, he probably thought for a moment there that he could actually get away with just using the fact that it was cold as an excuse not to take his sweater off. And then, of course, he probably realised that this is Detective Tagler, and probably by this stage he was afraid of her. He knew he was not going to get away with refusing to take his jumper off.
I haven't changed the tire in like 10 years. I made a rookie mistake. Got my thumb too close to the jack and the frame and it slipped. I pinned my thumb in between the frame and the jack. I got lucky. I panicked and pulled it out,
Let me see
which
the other side.
you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot
Go
of
like
pain.
this?
I panicked.
And flip your hand over.
I love the way he's just yabbering on, trying to get her sympathy. He's talking up this whole story of getting his hand caught between the jack and the frame. And what a load of BS. You're not supposed to pull it out, but I did. Dude, if it was truly stuck between the jack and the frame, you have a vehicle that probably weighs half a tonne. Do you really think you're going to be able to pull it out? Not a chance. You would have been pinned there. Had you pulled it out, you would have left your fingers behind, which you physically would not be able to do. So he's really talking up the story, trying to make it sound so traumatic and like it's such a, oh, it was a rookie mistake and it was such a bad injury and I did this even though I shouldn't have. And he's waiting for a response from her. He's waiting for the sympathy. And all she's doing is giving him directions as to how to hold his hands and stuff so that she can actually see these injuries. It's brilliant.
Can you see the other arm?
Mm-hmm. What my parents used for a tire iron in there.
Do you mind if I take a
janky.
picture of the cut you got?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Let me see if the flash works. Okay, can you go like this again?
Mm-hmm.
She actually managed to silence him. He was going to keep working that story to get the sympathy, and she just completely ignored it. And then when she asked him to flip his hand over or whatever it was, you get this really meek because she's basically given him no choice but to shut up. And he's defeated. This is possibly the first time in his life that he's been defeated with all his Stephan strategies. He's trying so hard to play the sympathy card here. He's trying so hard to give this explanation for the injuries on his hands, and neither of them are buying it. And he doesn't know where to go from there. So it's actually made him go quiet.
And then flip it over for me. Let me do this. Flip it over, please. Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah. She got her stuff. So let me go get your stuff and then you guys will be good to go. Okay, where are you guys gonna head? Do you know?
No idea.
Okay. Can you have your wife text me an address of wherever you guys end up tonight?
Yeah, I think my dad's on his way down too.
He has to have that little final dig, doesn't he? Oh, it's cold out here. In other words, you're so mean, you made me take off my sweater and now I'm cold. Little boy wants sympathy and no one's giving it to him.
Okay. Let me just verify with your wife her pills, and that's it. Okay?
Yeah, she is definitely putting emphasis on the word wife. She's trying to test out what the relationship is between them. That last time she said it, there was so much emphasis. And the expectation was for him to correct her and go, well, she's not my wife. But he didn't, which is really interesting. And I'd love to know what the thoughts are from the detectives in terms of this whole charade between Stephan and Jenn.
And then your phone, they're going to work on it overnight, so you'll probably get it in the morning. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Now, when I did that video the other week about the motion that the defence filed to basically have all the phone evidence thrown out and the Google evidence thrown out, I missed that last part of the interview. She's basically said to him, they're going to work on your phone overnight. Is that okay? Meaning they're going to do an extraction of his phone and asking him permission for them to do that extraction. And he said yes. He just gave clear permission for them to do a extraction from his phone. While they might not have specifically said extraction, saying they're going to work on it overnight, basically is clearly not saying we just want to check your maps. So I think that's reassuring. I think there's been so many instances where she has confirmed with him that he is okay with them doing these things with his phone. And also the fact that this is the second interview, there's been 5 hours since they took his phone off him, meaning that we know that he's had this conversation with Jen and Chris. Both of them have said that they had this conversation where he said he wasn't sure if he should have given them the phone, and they said, and we said to him, if you've got nothing to hide, give them the phone. Meaning that he had time to basically think about the fact that they have the phone and think about the fact that he could object to them having the phone or doing things with the phone. So he knew at this point in time that he could say no, because he'd already had this conversation with Jen and with his father. They confirmed that in their interviews. So, as far as I can tell, the defence doesn't have a leg to stand on here. This last part of the interview makes it pretty clear they are going to work on your phone overnight. That's not, they are just going to look at one thing on your phone. He made it clear that he was fine with that. So that brings us to the end of this one. It is definitely shorter than yesterday's video, but obviously the two together would have been like close to 5 hours by the time I finished, 4.5 hours or something, and well, you'd be getting one very, very late video, so it made sense to just split them. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the strategies that Detective Tagler used here. I love the way that she starts off like a friendly kitty cat and then becomes this fierce tiger. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but she completely sat him on his ass there. He didn't know what to do with himself. You heard that one part where you could tell his breathing was getting heavier because he was panicking, because he didn't know how to get out of it, because he's so used to his parents buying his lies. And you've heard Jen say, oh, I just let him do what he does, meaning that she couldn't give a rat's ass, so she obviously doesn't fight back over stuff with him either. So when someone actually gave him that resistance, he didn't know what to do, which it makes it easier to listen when you actually realise that's what's going on, because it's just so amusing hearing this guy having his arse nailed to the wall, basically. So on that note, I'll finish it there. If you are new to my channel, please do subscribe. Also, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. I would dearly love to be able to reach 5,000 subscribers. I haven't set a time goal for that, but you guys can help me get there. So on that note, thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.